We are reading from the Mandukya Upanishad. This is our online class number 10 on chapter number 1 of this Upanishad. In our last meeting, we discussed three main points. The analysis of the sentence, I know that I know an apple, in three negative forms. So the first sentence remained positive, second became negative, then first negative, second positive, and then both of them became positive, negative. So that was the first point we discussed. Then the second point was that sleep, that is Sushupti, is the threshold between the two other states, that is Jagrat and Swapna, waking and dream state. Then we touched the topic, the Ishvara or Prajna, who is the cause of this creation. And we said that the effect is there in the cause in potential form, like a mango tree in a mango seed only. We will follow the same third point in the first part of this session. There is an advance warning. Today you have to bear with an analytical and logical discussion of the creation. Today, almost the whole time we will be dealing with this idea of creation, what was there before creation, and how this creation came into being, and what is the material with which this creation has been made by the Creator. It is necessary to go through the logical structure or analysis of it to understand the real nature of ours. That will be free from all confusions if we know the logic that we will use to prove the Creator and the creation. So the third point was about the Creator, whether the creation was in its cause. We asked this question, where from or from which cause does this universe emerge? Then the answer we saw that from the Creator, which is called Ishvara or Prajna by the sixth mantra of the Upanishad. There we learned that wonderful word, Esha Yonihi. That is a sentence actually. This Prajna or Ishvara is the cause, source, Yonihi. Then the question we are asking, did this universe exist in the Creator or Ishvara before its creation? Creation we know because we are in the creation. So our question was, did the creation exist or did this universe exist in its cause? This question gives rise to three theories of the creation of the universe. We have three theories to deal with. I would like to briefly narrate those theories for a special reason. This may help us understand the arguments that would follow better and the arguments that are used by the Upanishad. Not only that, it would remove many of our misconceptions that are being regarded as the authentic interpretations because they are being accepted without question. This way, a lie told many times becomes a truth. The Indian tradition has given rise to 6 systems of philosophies, 6 systems of Indian philosophies. I am not including the 4 Buddhistic philosophies. In the Upanishadic arguments, many nihilistic positions of the Buddhists have been disproved. I am enumerating the names of those philosophies which had their origin in Vedas. That is for your information. It is not only simply for your information, but it is necessary, because many people have serious misunderstanding about the basic technical nature of the different philosophies. They are different philosophies. They are different because of their different technical stands, which cannot be compromised. Even people doing research under famous guides believe that certain defining technical stands in one philosophy is the same with all other philosophies. Therefore, they misinterpret the main philosophy under their own study, and they continue to misguide successive generations. And that becomes a truth. In many cases, modern researchers are affected by such fundamental mistakes. Books are available with all these mistakes, and you refer to those books as authentic sources. But when we are discussing philosophical things, we have to be very careful technically, because logic means formal logic is being used, where if you compromise even a word, technical word of one philosophy, then the problem is that you are leaving your stand and accepting somebody else's stand. This in logic is called, in Indian logic it is called swapaksha parityagaha, leaving one's own stand, and parapaksha grahanam, and you are accepting the stand of the opponent. Therefore, we should be very careful even to use a single word. Anyway, these 6 systems are presented in 3 groups because of their nearness. There are 3 groups: Sankhya and Yoga philosophies. They are called Sankhya Yoga. Nyaya and Vaisheshika. Then Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. Uttara Mimamsa is known as Vedanta philosophy. And the Purva Mimamsa part of the Vedas, that is known as Karma Kanda. We ask the question, was the effect or product present in the cause before the creation? That is the question we are now checking. Was the effect or product present in the cause before the creation? We also told that this question gave rise to 3 theories. These 6 systems of Indian philosophies are proponents of these theories. We know that God or Ishvara has 2 parts. One is the conscious part and another material part. That we have already seen while discussing the third aspect of Atman. Now we will deal with theory number 1. This theory says, yes, the universe existed in the Creator or Ishvara or God before its creation. This universe existed in the Creator before its creation. This theory is propagated by the Sankhya philosophy based on a theory which they call Parinamavada or Satkaryavada. The meaning of these two words is the effect, that the effect, though phenomenally different, is in essence identical with the cause. So it pre-exists potentially or latently in the cause. The effect or the universe existed in the cause potentially before its creation. Like the pot, which is made by clay and by a potter. So the pot potentially pre-existed in the clay, like the waves potentially pre-existed in water. The ornaments potentially pre-existed in gold. This is the first theory. Yes, the creation or the universe was there in its cause, call it God, in a potential form. Theory number 2. This theory naturally disagrees with the first one and says, no, the universe did not exist in the Creator. It is a brand new creation. Suppose we call it an abracadabra creation, a magic which produced the universe out of nothing, out of thin air. It is called Arambhavada, means beginning, new beginning. This theory of causation is advanced or advocated by the Nyaya school, the logic school of Indian philosophy. So the effect, which is something newly produced, it did not exist in the cause. Like for example, they say a cloth is made of fiber, made of cotton, suppose. That is the cause. You cannot find the cloth in any fiber. So the cloth is a new creation which was not there in the fiber or cotton. A non-existent effect becomes existent, a non-existent effect. In earlier theory we saw that the effect was existence, a potentially existent effect becomes existent. But here a non-existent effect becomes existent. It is called the beginning of a brand new creation or Arambha Vada. Then theory number 3, the creation theory advocated by Vedanta later on is called Vivartavada, the theory of apparent transformation or of unreal appearance. The general Vedanta view is that Brahman is both the material and the intelligent cause of the entire universe. There is nothing outside the infinite reality called Brahman. Brahman is the only being which contains the elements of Chit consciousness and Achit matter, which are transformed into the forms of individual souls and material objects. There is no external world of souls and matter produced out of external material causes. And the very concept of anything existing outside Brahman, outside infinity, is impossible, is rejected. Actually, Vedanta initially agrees with the Sankhya philosophy in accepting the theory number 1. What is the theory? It says that the universe existed in potential form in the Creator before its creation. Why did I say initially agrees? Because later on, as we will see in very great details in the 3rd chapter of this Upanishad, that Vedanta reduced the worth of the universe to a relative existence. This is called Vivartavada. The effect is apparent, time bound, and therefore relative. The universe is in effect relativity in work. This we discussed in the very beginning of our Mandukya Upanishad classes. This is called by the name, this relative work is called by the famous name Maya. I read a book several years ago which had a title something like Maya means the non-existence. Maya, the non-existence. The understanding is so wrong. We have to remember that Maya is not non-existence, but relative existence. Maya is not non-existence, but relative existence. Maya is defined in three ways. From an empirical standpoint, it is real. Because we live in this world, how can we say that the world is unreal, then I become unreal? From the empirical standpoint, Maya is real. From the standpoint of a realized soul, it is relative. So it is negligible. It was there, it was affecting me, but when I realized Brahman everywhere, when I saw my own self in every being, in everything, then that covering is gone. Therefore, I don't care whether there is Maya or not. I can see through every covering and I can see that same Atman. From the realized standpoint, this Maya word is relative but still negligible. And from a philosophical standpoint, if you ask what is Maya, philosophy needs to define anything, any word it takes within its fold, it has to define what is the meaning of this. So, the philosophical standpoint about Maya is that it cannot be described, it cannot be defined. You cannot define it, you cannot say whether it is existent or non-existent or both. If you say it is existent, but it won't remain because it is relative. If you say non-existent, but it is there, you are feeling, you are within it. If you say both, then you say that this existent, non-existent together cannot happen. We go back to our discussion of the origin of the universe theory. We see that Gaudapada supports the view of the Sankhyas. It is called Satkaryavada. That means that the effect potentially existed in the cause before its creation. But the logicians or Nayayikas do not accept this view that we have seen. They say that the effect did not and need not exist in the cause. Then Vedanta refuted the theory, like suppose we say that a tree comes out of a seed. So the seed is the cause of the tree, which is the effect. Now, whether this tree was available in the seed before its creation. So, the tree did not exist in the seed before its creation, that is what they said, logicians. And if we accept that view that the tree did not exist in the seed before its creation, then what will happen? You will plant a mango seed and you will get an apple tree. It should be possible because you say that the tree need not be there in the seed before its birth. Therefore, there is no cause and effect relation. Therefore, you can plant any seed and grow any kind of tree. This is not possible. This does not happen. It defies our practical experience. This is not acceptable. A coconut only gives birth to a coconut tree, not a mango tree, and vice versa. A mango tree is born out of a mango seed only. because the tree was there in the seed in a potential form or unmanifested form. So the birth of a mango tree is not a new creation, not a brand new creation, but it is a manifestation of the potential form of the tree. It was there. The same existence or Sat was in a potential form or avyakta, potential form, unmanifested form, and it has now transformed into a manifested form. Creation is not something coming out of nothing, not an abracadabra creation, but it is something changing its form or state. This is the theory of transformation or parinamavada. A mango tree has to come out of a mango seed only, because otherwise the laws of cause and effect will fail in every field. Then there will be no law at all. There will be no genetic imprint, etc. It will be a total chaos. If their view is true, then you work in the bank and I get your salary. I will be sent to jail because of somebody else's misdeed. In our childhood, we read a story. One peculiar king was there. He wanted to hang a fellow for his misdeed. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, the fellow was so tall that his height went much above the hanging bar. Then the king gave an easy solution. He ordered, "Bring a shorter man and hang him in place of this tall fellow." The punishment has to be carried out. That is the order. Let it be so ordered, let it be so done. Like the old language. Hanging only matters. Who is hanged does not matter. Hanging is only matters. Then we can say it is birth or creation that matters. Who is born out of what does not matter. Let it be so decreed and let it be so done. No. God is not such a crazy one. He is called karma phaladata or vidhata in Sanskrit. He distributes our karmas, our impressions of our works, both good and bad, exactly as it is recorded against our names. No special consideration there. That is the law, and that is the Creator God, the Creator of the law. Sri Krishna says in the Gita in the 8th chapter, at the beginning of the creation, the whole universe originates from the unmanifest source. And at the time of dissolution or ending, all go back into their unmanifest source. That means the whole creation was there in God. There is no creation out of nothing. There is no creation out of nothing. Then law of cause and effect will fail. The whole world goes with cause and effect. Why can't we find a cause for this world before its birth? What do we get out of this discussion? This leads us to the conclusion that God has two parts. Number one, the whole creation in potential form, or the universe, the material universe in causal form, in God. And that part of God is called Prakriti. This name is very known, or Maya in Vedanta, Prakriti in Sankhya. The fundamental matter, it is one part of Ishvara, God. And number 2, consciousness. Consciousness is the second part of God. Therefore, God consists of 2, matter and consciousness. These are the 2 famous words in the Gita, Kshetra and Kshetrajna, Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha is conscious, Prakriti is inert matter. Now the question is, of these 2 parts, what is responsible for what? Who creates what? What are their contribution? So we are following 3 theories. One theory says that the creation was there in the cause in potential form before its creation. The second theory said that this creation was not there in the cause. It is a brand new abracadabra creation. And the third theory says it is a creation but relative. It has a relative existence. We will follow how Gaudapada deals with these questions in his Karikas. What part of God is responsible for what creation? What part creates what? That means what is the contribution of Purusha, the consciousness, and what is the contribution of Prakriti, the matter. At first, Gaudapada says that prana or the causal matter is called Prakriti, which creates. Why is it called prana? Because in Sushupti, in the deep sleep state, when everything is resolved into a mass, then prana only, the vital force only functions in the body. Body is working. Dream is going on, sleep is there inside the body. But the physical body is alive, functioning because of the prana. Prana word means Sushupti Avastha. It is the unmanifest condition, the causal universe. This unmanifest creates or brings into manifestation everything, being in association with activated by the Purusha. This we will slowly see afterwards. Then number 2, Purusha, the Chit, the consciousness. It supplies the reflection to each of these created things, which are going to be called the jivas or the beings. The causal body or subtle body gets a reflection or a touch or a connection with consciousness, and then it becomes active or conscious or it acts. Not all the created things will be called the beings or jivas, but those things which are suitable to be associated with consciousness, with evident manifestation. Trees are there, they are not called jivas. The Purusha creates the jivas. The jiva actually is called the Chidabhasa. Chidabhasas mean many Chidabhasas are created by the Chit consciousness in various subtle bodies, Sukshma Sharira. Who produces the subtle bodies? Prakriti, the material part of Ishvara, of God, creates the subtle bodies. And the conscious part produces the touch of consciousness in the subtle bodies or reflections. The Taittiriya Upanishad says that after the creation of the subtle body, the consciousness entered it by way of being reflected in it. Tat srishtva tadevanu pravishat. That is the Sanskrit version of this. That after having created the subtle body, material body, the consciousness entered it by way of being reflected in it. Sri Ramakrishna, Shankaracharya and others spoke of this process by way of an illustration. Suppose you have some 10 bowls of water. Suppose we name them from B, bowl 1 to bowl 10. Now water in the bowls, those waters may be different. One may be dirty, one may be yellow, one may be blue, one may be pink. The color of water, the density of water, that may be different. So 10 bowls of water, the water may be different. That is subtle body. And they have names 1 to 10. Now the sun is reflected in all the bowls. The sun is there. Sun is reflected in all the bowls. Which part of the sun is reflected in which bowl? Can you identify? Which part of the sun is reflected in which bowl? Bowl number 1, bowl number 2, B3, B4, B10, like that. Can you identify which part? No, you cannot. Because the 10 reflections of the sun are not reflections of the parts of the sun, but the whole sun is reflected wholly in 10 bowls of water. In 10 waters, 10 suns, they are whole. Each bowl has the reflection of the whole sun. Correct? This we have to remember. Because the sun cannot be divided. There may be 10 bowls, 10 sukshma shariras, but the sun, the consciousness, cannot be divided. It reflects itself wholly. The sun enters every bowl of water, the whole sun. The reflections are called the chidabhasas. The consciousness is chit, abhasa, likeness, the likeness of the consciousness. It seems it is that consciousness. Who is that? That I in the second clause of our famous sentence. I know that I know an apple. This second I is the chidabhasa, the likeness of consciousness, likeness of the first I. First I know that I know an apple. That second I is called chidabhasa. And chit abhasa means likeness of the consciousness. And the first I is consciousness. There is no likeness, it is as it is. But then how many second eyes can we have? Because we cannot partition that first eye, we cannot make parts of that first eye. I know it is always there. But that I know an apple, that I know Berlin, that I know a table, all these things will go on changing, and this I may change many times. How many likeness of the consciousness are there? If we take up the 10 bowls, there are 10 likeness of the consciousness, 10 chidabhasas, 10 reflections. As many subtle bodies will be there to reflect it, as many bowls of water will be there to reflect it. The number of that chidabhasa would be that many. Gaudapada called the chidabhasa as chetamshu. Chetamshu. Amshu means the rays of the sun, that is called amshu. That is why one name of the sun is Amshumali, that which is decorated with so many rays. So each body, each person has a reflection of consciousness. And the material body, subtle body, is made of Prakriti, matter. The sun is one, but the rays of the sun are many. Purusha himself manifests as the individual souls in different bodies. The jivas are many and obviously separate from each other. Each individual or jiva is created as distinct, separate entities, because the baggage we bring are all different. All the baggages we carry, my baggage is different from your baggage, and that makes the difference and separation. Because each chidabhasa has a distinct characteristic due to the differences in the subtle bodies on which the chit or consciousness is reflected. Take for example the instances of these 10 bowls of water. When the sun is reflected in red water, the sun becomes red. When it is reflected in yellow water, the sun becomes yellow. When it is reflected in dirty water, the sun becomes hazy. Reflection becomes hazy. Then they become different. But there is no difference in the original sun or original consciousness. It is one undivided infinity. There is no difference in the consciousness. It is one and only one infinity. But the waters in different bowls are different. We have to remember this. Okay. So, consciousness is there in all subtle bodies. Does the plant have a subtle body? Does the animal have a subtle body? Yes, of course. Consciousness in the plants are called basic consciousness because of the density of the subtle body of the plant. Manifestation is very less. Thickness. Like we know about the non-conductors of electricity. They are non-conductors because of the inertia or inward pulling force, which does not allow or restricts the electrons to move. That is why they are non-conductors. Similarly, the density is like that more inertia, more force to pull inside, that is there. That is why it cannot be used as a conductor. Electrons are not getting released. That is why, even though there is consciousness in the tree, but manifestation is very dull. In animals, there is more manifestation of the consciousness compared to the plants. And finally, in the humans, the consciousness is defined completely, so far as we can define it. And hence, we are each a clearly defined individual, different individual, each one of us. We have seen the theories of the origin of the creation, the three theories. Now, we will ask two more questions. What is the nature of this creation? Because we spoke about the origin. What happened before the creation? What was there before the creation? Was it there before the creation? Now the question is, what is the nature of this creation which is created, the effect? And how was it created? This is the theory of creation. So we are looking into the very cause before the creation. Then second, we are looking into how it is created and what it has created. The nature of creation, what it has created, how it is created. These two things are being discussed now. Gaudapada has checked various opinions about this and finally expressed his liking for one. About this, there is a basic agreement between all these opinions that the God or Ishvara himself has created two things. And as we have seen, Vedanta says, the God himself is made of two things, the matter and the consciousness. So God himself has created two things, the material world and the individual souls or jivas. Or in other words, the objective material world and the enjoyers of the world. Both are created by God. There are two types of duality, two types of creation. One creation is done by God. God has created this whole world, human beings, plants, animals, etc. And then also material things, everything. Now, we, the beings, the jivas, individual beings, we have also created, because we are created by God, we are small gods, God's children. So we too have the desire to create. What did we create? We created the enjoyership. Suppose there is an apple. I created the enjoyership, that the apple is created by God, and I put the enjoyership in me and started enjoying that. So I attached enjoyership in me, and then I found those things which are created by God as my object of enjoyment. So this is another creation. We are creators, but not gods. Anyway, so God has created both the objective material world and the enjoyers of that world. Now at this background, we will check the two questions that had been raised by us. What are those questions? How was it created, and what is the nature of this creation? Earlier question was this universe, did this universe exist in the cause or God in potential form before its creation? That has been answered. Yes, it existed. We accepted that. Now the next two questions to fulfill the need of our asking. So how was it created, and what is the nature of this creation? We look at the different opinions in this respect. You will see that these opinions are answering many of our regular questions. I will raise those questions. Of course, not I. The questions were raised by the scholars based on Gaudapada's lead. So, number one, the view of the non-dual Vedanta or Advaita. We will take it up first, because when we deal with it first, then other things will be placed in their proper situation. So, the view of the non-dual Vedanta or Advaita is the creation is of the nature of a dream or Maya, Swapna Maya Prapancha, it says. The creation is of the nature of a dream or Maya. This word is known to us. The creation is unreal. That is what is called Maya, we have said. The creation is unreal like a dream, because the idea of the realness of its existence is an error, is a mistake. When we say that this creation is real, then that is a mistake. The whole creation is relative. That is why it is relatively real. The whole creation is relative. Therefore, it is relatively real. It is not absolutely real. It is relatively real. That is why it is called unreal. Ultimately unreal. Ultimately, it is not real. It has an end. It is not as unreal as building a castle in the air. No, not like that. You can feel it. When we are talking about this unreality, we are included in that. The person who is talking about unreality, that same person is tagged with this unreal. We too have that level. So this creation is not as unreal as our building a castle in the air. But it is interesting to note that Gaudapada does not indicate his choice in favor of any one of these theories. He is just narrating them for our information. So the Vedantic standpoint is that the material of this universe is relatively real. Then the second position, second opinion. Some others say that creation is the glory of the Lord. Surely you know who they can be. They are the dualists or the qualified monists, the devotees of God. God is all powerful. This creation is the glory of God. And who is that God? God is all powerful. The creation shows a glimpse of what God can do. Tasya Mahima. It is the greatness, the great work of God. How many things are working according to the laws? That is unbelievable. At what level? In the cosmic level, and also with the smallest of the smallest in the electronic things also. The creation shows a glimpse of what God can do. This is the view of these dualists. Creation is therefore real. As because one cannot think of the omnipotent God's glory to be unreal. That is not possible. If God is omnipotent, then His glory should be real. In the Gita 10th chapter, many glories of God as manifested in the creation have been enumerated. Then the deduction will be reached that everything in the creation is as real as God Himself. If it is part of God, how can it be unreal? It will be an unholy proposition to think that God's glories are unreal. Then the third postulate. This is the view of some others. Some people say that the whole creation is an expression of the will of God. Ichha matram prabho srishti. The Lord desired, willed that there would be creation, and the creation came into being. Ichha matram means it cannot be anything but the will of God. Ichha matram. Well, it is a chance almost gifted to ask a very teasing question. Why should God have such a will, or any will at all? What need does He have? He is complete, He is perfect. Hence, He does not need anything to make Him perfect. These are our questions, Many times you hear these questions. He has no want for anything. Therefore, why should He will at all? Why should there be a will, a desire? The answer is, you should not ask any such question. That is the answer. Why? And nobody is there to ask. If God has become everything and every being, this universe is part of God. God has become everything and every being. Then it is God who would ask the question, because there is nothing apart from God, outside God. Then it is God who would ask the question. Then you follow the logic. And if God is all-knowing, then He knows it already. He should not ask this question to Himself. Do you understand the logic? If everything has come out of God, and if God is all-knowing, then who is asking question to whom? God is asking question to God. And God is all-knowing, He knows already the answer. Why should He ask such a question to Himself? Because He already knows why He willed this way. Suppose I have done something, but I say I do not know why I have done this. Then what will happen? There is something wrong with me. But God is not that abnormal. So your question cannot be asked. It is also a disrespect, an unholy act. It is like questioning the authority of God. Still we may ask another question. If God is omnipotent or all-powerful, then why should He create suffering? Why should He create bad people? And hundreds and thousands of such questions. The answer they give is, it is a wonderful answer. We cannot ask this question also, because the extent of God's understanding is profound, And we are too small, our brain is too small to comprehend such huge things. If you say infinity, what do you understand by that? If you say so many light years, Stephen Hawking himself has written in the Brief History of Time, some 10 to the power, some 70 zeros, something like that. And he says, what is that number? We don't know. We can't comprehend that. It is too big. According to these people, the liberation and moksha, liberation or moksha is also the will of God. The dualists, as I have said, they hold this view. Now, why he decides and how he decides cannot be asked, because he has more reasons available to him to take a decision, which we don't have. God has more reasons available to him to decide on our fate. He knows more than we can know. In the Gita, Sri Krishna tells the same thing to Arjuna. O Arjuna, you have lived through many lives before this life. I too came many times as an incarnation. You do not know any of them, but I know all of them. I know not only your earlier births, I know my earlier incarnations also. So he has many material, many information, many data to decide on our fate. So therefore it is a profound, God's understanding is profound understanding, which we cannot understand. Then the fourth group, another set of philosophers, they say everything is produced by Kala, the time. They are called Kala Chintakaha. Kala. This is also true in some sense. It is the time that is the material in the beginning, during the continuance, and after the dissolution of this creation. If you remove time from any created thing or being, that thing or that being will not exist. Remove time from anything, that thing does not exist. The astrologers, they are Kala Chintakas, and such others are supporters of this view. Why am I born at this time, if you ask? The answer is because it was the time that you should be born. You cannot ask, why should I be born at this time? Why should I die at this time? You should die at that time. That is the time. Kalo Jagad Bhakshakaha, it is said in the scriptures. The time is the great devourer, eater of this whole creation. So the creation comes into being in time, the creation stays in time, and this creation goes back in time. Similarly, it is time that decides our birth, our death, our disease. It is auspicious time or inauspicious time. There are the position of planets which tells about different good or bad times, etc. So the creation is based on time. Time is the basis or material for this creation. Some others say that the creation is for the experience of God. Why do you go out of your home, if we ask this question? I will answer, I go out for my own enjoyment, experience and pleasure of my will. God felt like enjoying. So he created. Why? For his enjoyment. Then we have another occasion to blame God, saying, he is the cruelest person, most saddest person, because he is enjoying when others are suffering. Well, we all accepted that God created everything and every being by himself, out of himself. If we are suffering, we are enjoying too. If God is enjoying, he is suffering also. That's what Holy Mother has said. After all, if it is God who is in the creation, it is He who is suffering. Then the sixth group says that it is the play of God. Again, another chance to ask question. We say creation is the play of God. Then we will ask, why does He play like this? It is His play and we suffer. What is play to you is death to us. But why should He play? Then the answer is He likes to play. It is just like a child who likes to play because it likes to play. Then the seventh group, we will mention this as the last group. They say that it is the nature of God, and it will take some time to explain this, and Vedanta holds this view so far as it is acceptable, and then modifies this, and then Vedanta speaks about the Vivartavada or apparent creation. The creation is not real, but relative creation. So this will take more time. So we will take up in our next sitting, and it will lead us actually to our next mantra, that will be the seventh mantra of the Upanishad. And there comes the self-realization. So that this needs a lot of time to similarly peel off all the layers after layers of our ignorance and to reach our Swarupa. So this last group, the seventh one, is, at least there are some more, but we are taking it as the seventh one because this only is the basis of Vedantic idea of creation and realization. So we will not take it up now because it will take really good time, and it is a wonderful study of how the self-realization happens. Thank you very much.